everyone, hope you're doing well. We're back on the dev server and it's time to have a look at another new vehicle that is coming in for Sweden. Now this one is the AJS37. It's another version of the EVGA, which isn't really a surprise because of the general, or I suppose natural progression of aircraft for Sweden. So we have the JA37C, the Yacht EVGA, then we have the JA37D EVGA, then the AJ37, and now we have the AJS37. So four EVGAs overall, and I'm sure we'll probably get more in the future. So, what does this one have compared to some of the other ones? It starts off with the PS37A radar, which is a pretty powerful one. Has access to a bunch of cool features, which is quite nice, along with the pilot, who has access to CCIP for everything, but no CCRP or EES or anything like that, which kind of sucks. The vehicle also has the Svenska Flygmotor RM8A, giving it a lot of afterburner thrust, over 11,000 of it to keep it going. Does mean that it burns fuel pretty aggressively, which can kind of go around. And what is actually kind of cool that I didn't know nowadays, you can actually see in the X-ray, this is the drop tank. So it actually kind of shows the fuel that's in the tank, which I thought was really nice. There's also fuel in the wings, of course, and then all around, since it is a pretty modern jet. Now, one of the things also is this vehicle does have access to some kind of primary weapons. You have access to some 30mm if you want to bring them along. You can see them right here on the setup, but right now it is slightly bugged, so when you don't take them, it still kind of shows them. So my guess is these aren't going to be here. You can see they're not in an X-ray, so these won't be here if you take this loadout, so you have to bring along the 30mm if you want to have them around. Now the problem with this is the countermeasures are on the same pods as the 30mm, and this obviously is a problem because it means if you want to stay alive, you're not going to be able to bring guns. That sucks, since there seems to be no internal guns on this vehicle, as it's more of an attack version than anything else. It does have access to some pretty interesting missiles though. So you have the RB-24Js. These are just the standard AIM-9Js, sorry, just renamed by Sweden. Then you also have RB-74s. Now RB-74s are AIM-9Ls. So this vehicle, which is kind of more designed for ground attack, does have access to AIM-9Ls, which will be quite nice. Doesn't have any semi-actives on it, so much more designed for closer combat. It also has some dumb bombs. Doesn't have any drag bombs, surprisingly, but does have dumb bombs. Then also it has some RB-05A rockets, which are the bullpups. Then it has the countermeasures, some rockets, and then also the RB-75s, which are the Mavericks, if you're not used to them. You can see there it does actually replace the 30mm if you put it on that hard point. So the vehicle itself has access to a bunch of different things. It has, I suppose you'd class it as an air-to-air loadout, where you can bring along the countermeasures, or you can bring along guns, or you can bring along more missiles, depending on how you feel. And then you can create some other loadouts as well, including ones which could pretty much just take out anything on the ground with the good old Mavericks. So there is a little bit of everything here for the vehicle. I feel like most of the time people are probably going to use the air-to-air loadout for it, just because the ground loadouts won't be, you know, the best in the world, but at least it'll be usable compared to previous ones. So one of the things that a lot of Sweden has been struggling with for a long time in War Thunder is a kind of ground CAS option, and the EVGA, the AGS, doesn't give access to any guided bombs or anything like that, but does give access to some more Mavericks, which hopefully will help. One of the things a lot of high-tier vehicles have been doing more recently, they've been trying their best to kind of get the guided bomb stuff going on, or, you know, the high missiles where you come in from an incredibly high angle of attack and then fire down into nations. That seems to be pretty much what's been going on with nearly everybody over the last little bit. But the problem is that there are still certain nations in the game that don't really have access to that guided munitions. You know, the Swedish, for example, right now, when you have a look at a lot of their CAS elements, it's based around missiles, and even then, a limited amount. So, for something like this, the big upgrade, I suppose, is the fact that you can carry 4 of the Mavericks instead of 2, and then it also gives you more usability when it comes to pretty much all of the different setups on it. So, instead of just having the ability to use just a few missiles, you now have the ability to use more missiles. Now, Mavericks in general are pretty useful. They're obviously designed for long-range engagements and can work very well, especially if targets aren't paying attention. But they also leave you open for missile fire, which may come in, which is a bit, you know, of an issue overall. But it's still an additional option that you can get given, which is quite nice, because one of the factors that you have with Sweden is that Sweden has probably one of the best ground lineups in the game. It has, you know, access to the STRV-122s, it has access to the very good light vehicles, it has access to the ITO, which is one of the better SAMs in the game. But one of the things that it's always struggled with is, of course, the simple fact that it doesn't have a lot of CAS elements. They added in helicopters more recently, which helps, but still, these Vigans aren't really up to snuff if you compare it to a lot of other vehicles that are around the place. Now, they're getting better. Obviously, with like this one, you can see that it's getting better, which is nice. And also in the future, I'm sure it'll get better, especially with the addition of Finland now, since Finland has, you know, some options, and maybe we'll get some other nations in as well, which could give good old Sweden a go at stuff. So that could be nice. But you can see here it still has all of the standard like cockpits. It even has the aimer there, which is pretty cool. So you can kind of use it from the cockpit, which is nice. But I feel like for a vehicle like this, most people are just going to use it in its air-to-air setup because of its IR missiles, but it gives you an extra string to your bow when it comes to ground, and hopefully that will, you know, help people out with Sweden. The Swedish ground tech tree is super fun to grind out, the air tech tree is also fun to grind out, and the helicopter tree isn't actually that bad either. It's one of the more fun minor nations in the game, and adding vehicles like this, even though they don't offer too much different, what it does offer is something which will be usable and will be nice to see as always. So I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Millie Draper, Juan the Panda, Nick R. Kupila, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Merciless Reaper, Orange Tail, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Moxie B. Young, Peter Grayling, Jerry Provolt, Bareen, Alan Hacker, Sem Arslan, Uncle Bean, Derek R, and Lafouche for supporting the channel.